Yeah.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you.
Can you tell me your full name?
Yes, my name is Herbert Bill Harrison.
Okay. And where did you go to boot camp at, Mr. Harrison?
In San Diego.
And what year was that?
That was in 1942, October the 28th. It was Navy Day. That started, I was sworn into the Navy, and it was a 21-day period of boot camp.
Do you remember anything about boot camp? Do you remember doing any of the drills or anything like that?
Yes, I do, and I remember that Henry Fonda was one company behind my company, and it was kind of fun watching him do his laundry, scrub his clothes, and we would watch him from the back of our barracks. But we had air raid drills. They really expected maybe San Diego would be bombed by the Japanese, and I do remember that it was a quick 21-day maximum training period to get ready to go to sea.
Why did you join the Navy at
Well,
that time?
I tell you, I was a senior in high school when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, and it upset me so much. And there was not a boy left in my senior class. We all went in the military in different branches of service. And I couldn't wait to get my hands on the enemy that caused so much destruction, of destroying our fleet, as well as killing thousands of our American boys. And this is why I left, and all the other boys in my class, along with two girls, joined the military at that time.
Thank you. My next question is, you joined the Navy, you went through boot camp. My next question is going to be, how did you end up on a raft for 6 days?
Well, I was assigned to a minesweeper, and we were in the North Atlantic battling the German submarines that were laying mines in the paths of the convoys loaded with troops, supplies headed for Europe. And anyway, after Germany surrendered, we were ordered to the Pacific. We were supposed to have been in on the invasion of Japan, which never took place because of the atomic bomb. But a massive typhoon, we landed at Okinawa September the 13th, and 3 days later, September the 16th, a massive typhoon hit Okinawa, and we were ordered around for safe anchorage, but the typhoon was on us before we could not get around the island. We almost sunk because the typhoon was hitting us from the side, so the skipper had to head directly into the typhoon. We rode it out until midnight, all day long until midnight that night. And the storm was the worst at midnight, and that's when we got at the top of a big wave, and the ship got turned and it started rolling down a 65-foot wave. And the wind was 120 miles an hour. They told me at ship's inquest. I had to go to ship's inquest. I was a senior survivor, and tell them what happened. And there was a total of 6 survivors from my ship. They picked up 2 other boys in the ocean and 4 of us off the life raft. But 9 of us managed to get a raft off the ship as it was sinking. 6 days later, no food, no water. There were only 4 of us left. And one of my buddies was killed by sharks on the 4th day. And 3 went insane from drinking ocean water. It had salt in it, and it dried up their bloodstream. They couldn't function. They went wacko, and they left the raft for different reasons. One boy left, twisted out of the grasp. We were trying to hold him on, and he said, "I'm going to get a taxi to take me home. And if anybody wants to go with me, come on, I'll pay your way." But he got off the raft and was yelling for the taxi to wait. "I'm coming. Don't go." Well, And then another boy, my best friend aboard the raft and aboard the ship, I was in the same division. I was the engineering division, and he said, "I'm going down. I think our ship is sunk right below our raft. I'm going down to get something to drink, and I'll bring everybody up something." Of course, we were all thirsty, and this sounded kind of good, but and I still said, "I don't think it's a good idea for you to do what you're talking about." And I said, "Stay on the raft. You got a better chance to survive." Well, you know, he went down, never did come back to the top. And another boy would talk to himself. It didn't make sense. He would go around the raft, holding onto the raft with one hand, and I pulled him in, I would say 6 times that day, and the last time I pulled him in was about 2 hours after dark. And when we woke up on the 6th day, he was nowhere to be found. And only 4 of us left. And one of my buddies talked me out of my life jacket. And he was one of the survivors that was picked up on the ocean, and there was one other guy that was picked up. So it made a total of 6 survivors from my ship. And my ship was a 472, and I should have known, check that out. That adds up to 13. That's not a good number if you want to be lucky. But anyway, I gotta say it was good to me because I survived, and we started out, the color of our skins, it began, we had no protection from the sun, nobody had hats on, and our skin was first pink, and then it was a dark red, and it turned purple, and by the 6th day it was totally black. We had no protection from the sun. But I look back over my life, my Navy experience, and I know God had a big hand in my rescue. He had a job for me to do, and one is to talk to schools in the whole world about faith in God. And I promise God, if you'll send help, we're rescued, I'll do all within my power to further cause of faith in God. I've talked to over 30 schools in the last year and a half, and I'll tell you what, I've talked to service clubs, churches, different organizations, and but another thing that tells me that God had a job for me to do along with speaking is I got my contractor's license as soon as I got out of the Navy, and I think I was 26 years old when I got my contractor's license, and I built 53 churches up and down the West Coast, and 12 in San Diego, 1 up as far as Seattle, 1 in Sacramento, and 3 down through the San Joaquin Valley. My brothers, who were all in construction, I had one brother, an electrical contractor, another brother, a plumbing contractor, another brother, a carpenter, layout specialist, a first cousin that was a concrete man, 2 brother-in-laws that could do either concrete or carpentry. But we asked for donated labor from each church to keep the cost down. And I'll tell you what, we would build a church, and the people would say, "Well, how much did this church cost?" We would tell them, and they'd say, "Would you come and build our church?" We had 5 churches going at one time, and that was before the freeway system was in effect. And I'll tell you what, not one time were we taken to court, not one time do we have to take anybody to court. But I look back over my life, and I know God wanted me to survive my ship so I could be one of the crew that built the churches. And that really has been my mission, along with speaking. And now, I was on the Speaker Bureau in Southern California, the same one that John Wooten was on. And the lady who arranged our talk, she said, "Bill, do you realize that you are the most requested speaker on our bureau?" And I said, "Not more than John Wooten." I said, "He was a basketball coach for UCLA." She said, "Oh yes." She said, "He's a little selective, and he does require more money when he speaks." But she said that you're asked for more than anyone. And there were 2 movie stars on the Speaker Bureau at that time, little Donna and Darla. They were both on our gang comedy group, Spanky and Buckwheat. But anyway, for 6.5 years, I had assignments. Some 2-week period, I would speak as much as 12 times. And not one time did my speaking engagements interfere with my duty building the churches. And I know God has been a big part of my life. And I just, I've lived in Hemet now for 27 years and out by Hemet High School. And I have so much to be thankful for. I lost my wife 8 years ago, and we were married 64 years. And I am 92 years old.
I read your book.
Did you?
And I always wanted to ask you, when I was reading your book, and I saw how graphic that the complete breakdown of some of your raft mates, how they just totally devolved so quickly into, having delusions and really thinking that they could help themselves. What was the one part of who you are that allowed you to resist doing some of the things you did, like going down for a taxi or going down for food, or to keep trying to get back in the water? What do you think was the one guiding principle that kind of cemented your will to survive, so to speak?
I wish I had a definite thing to say that there. Number one, I didn't know what salt water would do to you, and I couldn't get that message to some of the fellas. You're going to die if you start drinking salt water, and it'll end up as death. But that was one thing that kept me out of salt water, so I was able to, but I really feel in a big way that God almost hypnotized me or put me in a trance, because I didn't suffer for food, I didn't suffer for water. I think back over this and I think to myself, when I really think about it, I could have drank water and it would have tasted good, and I could have had food and it would have tasted good, but I really didn't have a driving desire for food or water in that 6 days. Now, I really feel that God, either He just protected my body big time, and I'll always feel that way, so I could do what I end up doing in my life.
And I noticed in your book that you talked a lot about your family.
Yeah.
Was your family a big part of establishing who you were in order to be on that raft and have that kind of faith?
Oh, yes. My mother had a direct pipeline to heaven. I always felt she had a strong prayer life. And one very interesting thing, I think it's in my book, my wife had received a telegram I was missing,
Right.
and she didn't hear, and also was followed up with a letter. But 10 days went by. She didn't hear a thing, and my mother called her one morning and said, "Ida, I just got out of my prayer closet, and God told me we're going to hear from Bill today." Now that's now. I mean, you got not tomorrow or maybe next week, but it was today. And if my wife said this, my mother, my wife would know that my mother having a direct pipeline to heaven, it's going to happen. She got excited. She waited for a phone call, and it didn't come. And then she waited for a telegram, it didn't come. And then when it was time for the mailman to come, she went on the front porch and watched. And when the guy came around the corner, she ran down to meet him. And he reached in his mail pack and pulled out a letter from me. Now here's what happened. When they picked us up and we were on the Air Sea Rescue Hospital ship, the chaplain told us the following morning, he said that, boys, things are kind of messed up here in the military right now at the end of the war. And he said, if you would just write your loved ones a half a page, tell them you've been rescued, they'll probably get that before they get notified from the Navy or the government. Well, we did that. I wrote my wife a half a page, told her I'd been rescued and I hope to see her soon and I'm doing fine. Well, that was the letter that guy pulled out of his pouch. And let me tell you, 4 days later, then my wife got a telegram from the government and the Navy that I had been rescued. And it was followed up with a letter. but 4 days after they got my letter. Now, isn't that wild? That
Yes.
is wild.
Another thing in your book I wanted to ask you is, I remember reading, I think it was your book, I remember reading that when you were younger, there was not a lot of room in your house.
Yeah.
And that there was it a burglar that came to your house?
Yeah.
What happened with that? I always
Well,
wanted to ask you about that.
You know what?
incident.
We had a 2-bedroom house. My dad and mom were very poor. We lived right next to the African American village because the rent's cheaper there, and the girls all had I had 5 girls and 4 boys, and the girls slept in the 1 bedroom. My mom and dad slept in another bedroom, but the boys slept in the hallway. And that night, one of the fellows from the African American village come through a window, and he got into the hallway, and he stepped on my stomach, and I went, yo! I let out a big yell. It woke my dad up, and my dad jumped out of bed, and he run, and he chased the guy back out the window. He came in, and he got a seashell, and he hit him as he dove through the window, and he knocked the tip off of that thing, hitting his head, but the guy only hit the ground. He was running, gone. But you know, the thing that kept my sanity aboard that raft, this was very important at that time, was God gave me the thoughts of a memory tree. And my best playing buddy was a little black boy. We called him Snowball. And he's only 6 years old. I was 6 years old. And that memory tree, I built the trunk, thinking about what happened. I built the limb of a day we had a lot of fun. I put a lot of leaves on their limb, man. We played first cowboy, and then we played marbles, and we did other things. And I'd come back of another day, I'd build me another limb, and I kept my mind going so I wouldn't go crazy, because I felt it would help. And sure enough, man, I built me a tree, and I believe it was the 5th day when we lost more buddies. I think I put more limbs on my tree that day than any other day. Right. And that's God gave me the thoughts of a memory tree, and I built that thing. And a lot of people say that's the thing that caused the movie to be selected to be done. Right. About the memory tree. But this little boy, let me tell you, he was a dear buddy, and he thought so much of me, and I loved him. And when I would call my little sister something, I'd be 6 years old, and I'd call her a name that would upset her, and she would cry and go tell my mom. Well, my mom would give me a spanking for that. But when my mother spanked me, and I was yelling more than it was hurting, but I thought the more I would yell, the sooner she'll quit. But when I would come out, Snowball would be crying much worse than I was, and tears just coming down his face. And he told me 1 or 2 times, he said, Bill, one of these days your mama gonna kill you. I don't want her to whip you anymore. But isn't that a friend? I tell you what, I've gone back to my hometown in Texas and tried to find him in the worst way, but I have a hunch that he was probably called away to the military, and maybe he didn't get back, but he was nowhere to be found. Right. And there wasn't a record anywhere of him. But I tell you what, the memory tree did more to help me keep my sanity, I feel, than anything I could do.
Well, your book is amazing.
Well, thank you.
I read it.
So glad.
I thought it was an inspiration, and so saying that, I want to follow up with another question. Well, actually 2 more, and then we're done, I promise.
Oh, no problem.
The first one is, when Pearl Harbor happened and you were a senior high school, your patriotism pushed you to enlist. How did you view September 11th?
How did I view it?
Yeah, and I mean, it seems like you have been alive for 2 events that really drastically changed America's outlook on things.
Well, I tell you, it kind of got me going. I thought I'm too old to go to the military, but I was so proud when I was on the news, when I would hear the feelings of the veterans concerned, especially those that were already in the military, that they got excited and they were anxious to go after the crooks that did this, were responsible. And I was proud, but I thought, oh man, if I was military age, I would be thinking the same way they are thinking.
Right.
So that's the way I really felt, and I didn't like, we lost so many people, what, close to 25,000, I think, isn't it?
Well, we lost 3,200 all told, with all the, you know,
On
3,200.
On the
But
planes even.
right, but I mean, and then on the planes was the additional probably 1,200 people, so almost 5,000 people, and then you know guys that went over to
Yeah.
Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Did that when that happened? Did that give you a feeling of that sense of patriotism that you had as a young man?
Oh, yes, yes.
So did it give you hope?
Well, yes, it did. It gave me hope because I know our country is going to get the responsible people that have been responsible for what happened. And I really felt very strong because I had, they flew me back to Washington on an honor flight, and they wanted to fly all the World War II veterans back, and they are pretty well completed now doing that. And I also heard that the World War II veterans are dying at the rate of 1,500 a day.
Mhm.
And I thought, man, I hope they get to go see it. I went to see it, and they treated me so well. And the World War II Veteran Memorial is a beautiful sight back there. And after they flew me back there, two of the ladies that worked for Honor Flight Office and were arranging the flights, and there was a real rich fellow that was picking up the tab for the expense, but they voted on a veteran, and they would get together at the end of each day, each week, rather, once a week they would fly a plane load of veterans into Washington. Well, they would find out who they voted for. For the first time, I got a phone call from one of the ladies, and she said, Bill, something happened when you were back here at FLU. Both of us picked you out as the most inspirational veteran on the Honor Flight program, and we've always picked different ones. She's always different than me, but we both agreed that you. And she said, we want you to, we're going to send you air flight tickets for you and your son, and he will take care of you, but fly back and we'll cover your hotel expenses